last 2 years, ever since destroying GMOs, because in the new cycles, we will not allow GMOs to be entered into the food chain for people or animals. We want to go back to the organic living by restoring the land and then living off the land by restoring it. The land gonna take care of all our needs as long as we take care of the land, right? And all this land is tribal land. And even DC, because we staked the totem pole in DC to commemorate the 400 years, then they marched the totem pole for 400 miles, 1 mile to the year, right? And then they staked it in DC because that was the so-called crime scene that was classified as a independent city state.
Okay. Yeah, that that makes perfect sense. Like I said, I've been ever since I've been we talked about this prior, ever since I've been talking if some of y'all look back at my other video, I had a good bill with the brother Dr. Gabriel Hernandez L, and he started talking about, I think the name of it was "We Came Before Columbus." We kind of building on
That's how
that now.
it started.
Yeah. That's what he titled. He titled that after the book, but it's all connected now. And like I told you earlier, it's a hot topic because a lot of people are starting. A lot of black folks are starting to look in their ancestors, and they come to find out, that they're natives. You know what I'm saying? They weren't. Of course, they weren't slaves. Could you kind of build on that as well? Talking about specifically how we were all told in fifth grade that we were slaves. You know what I mean? That we all came in on all these boats, but in reality, that's farthest from the truth.
Right. So, because of the CONJURE that was tied to the blood oath contract that was written in the blood of Crispus Attucks, Albert Pike came in to institute the principles of what we know as the Illuminati. And the goal of that was it would take them 200 years to position themselves to take the entire world over. So it was the tribesmen around the world that came together to try to figure out a solution for this white supremacist colonizing agent that was traveling the world seeking to devour nations, right? So Sukarno called the Bangdong Conference so that the original tribes of the earth can come together and figure out solutions. On the heels of the Bangdong Conference, this is when Malcolm started talking about going to the United Nations to argue the issue of human rights, because civil rights and human rights are not the same thing.
When you talk about like conjuring wars, because I know we know it is. Could you go like a little bit more detail what a conjuring war is specifically?
So they use the principles of magic, and in the principles of magic, the magicians challenge each other to use their psychic ability, their spell craft abilities to conquer in the wars. A good example for you to do a study to understand what I mean by priest wars, you have to go to the King Tut era dynasty and read the history of Akhenaten and King Tut, right? And when you see that they went from the the Amun to the I-10, and the conflict that it was causing, the resolution was to declare a conjure war, right? So it's the same conjure war, it's just a repeat cycle so that we can unravel the larger scale conjure war that the enemy that was in control of it lost control of the conjure. So now they have to call in the big guns, the only one that can figure out what went wrong with the conjure. Well, the thing that went wrong is the ones who was selling the snake poison bought their own poison, and they took that shit too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it cost them to try to hold us down because they couldn't remember how to help us get back up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't remember what they had did, how they had infiltrated us and challenged us to the war, feathers versus FEZZES,
Mm.
right? So we had to claim they fez by learning. So how did they raise us? With poor education.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that we're going to ever get out of this situation is we all have to start learning independently of the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere along the line, our elders understood one thing. We cannot allow the enemy to continue to educate our children, because they'll never give us the tools and the resources we need to
Mm-hmm.
overcome the problem that we faced with that's
Mm-hmm.
keeping us in this adversarial position,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we being held back on purpose, but what we not realizing is the only thing they holding us back from is claiming our birthright,
Mm-hmm.
because part of the competition was any one of us that claimed the birthright to the land can bring an end to the conjure by exposing the guilty party,
Mm.
right? So Noble Drew Ali didn't expose directly the guilty party,
Mm-hmm.
but he left a series of clues in his works
Mm-hmm.
where those who don't understand the language of the chiefs, they won't never pick up the subtle clues that he leave for
Mm-hmm.
us to know who the adversary is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, sooner or later, they came to the conclusion the children are going to have to start educating themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why are they going to have to do? The only way that's going to happen is if they birth elders back in that was of high learning,
Mm.
because they're going to come back in with a genetic disposition to research.
Mm-hmm.
This genetic coding, as they research, is going to start layer building an image in the subconscious mind that's going to serve as a surveying tool across the land,
Mm.
right? So when you're reading all of the legends of off the reservations, right?
Mm-hmm.
They telling the legends that our elders told them when they separated our elders from our community to teach them on the reservation the ways of our people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So they continuously tell the story that the elders told them. They talking about our big mamas with hair like this and skin like this. Those are the elders that was the griots, the storytellers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the griots and storytellers became researchers like J.A. Rogers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like Albert Churchward,
Mm-hmm.
like Gerald Massey, people who teach themselves, like Madam H.P. Blavatsky,
Mm-hmm.
right? She
Indeed.
didn't go to, these people didn't go to Catholic school or Protestant school.
That's the truth.
They were all educated on the land by experiencing certain things as they encounter new information.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to leave breadcrumbs for Hansel and Gretel, because it's going to take a male and a female to figure it out. She going to be the psychic channel. He's going to be the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Pinky in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Pinky is Pinky Tuscadero. Happy Days.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the old lady, Arthur Fonzarelli. Right? The
Mm-hmm.
Fonz.
The Fonz.
Right? And the
Mm-hmm.
Fonz is notorious for a leather jacket.
Mm-hmm.
A leather jacket means you cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Kanye wore a leather jacket because Big Tookie was cold.
Mm.
And Big Tookie was cold because Big Tookie was froze.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the man on ice now, a man on fire. He's stomping with the big boots. The newest Kanye meme, Kanye walking with the big boots.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it.
The big chief is ready to stomp across the land. He's telling you he's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when we tell the stories of what's taking place on the land, it's because we can communicate with each other by little simple means like what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
We use each other as mirrors to see each other.
Mm.
And this is why the imposter always exposes himself, because in the mirror, he don't look like us
Mm-hmm.
when he faced with us.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have the same compassion for each other that we got.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have no love for us, but we show them love all the time.
All the time. Yep.
They get jealous and murder us because we starting to shine.
Mm-hmm.
But when they start to shine, we try to prop them up. But they can
Mm-hmm.
only shine so bright because they not us, right? So we talking about the feathers, the bird clans. This is
Mm-hmm.
land of Tahuti,
Mm-hmm.
right? The home of the bald eagle,
Mm-hmm.
right? The land of the great condor,
Mm-hmm.
home of the thunderbird,
Mm-hmm.
right? The home of the great Quetzalcoatl,
Mm-hmm.
right? The winged serpent, the plumed
Mm-hmm.
serpent, right? So what is we talking about? We talking about restoring the chiefs all over the land
Mm-hmm.
because we can't kick the enemy out using the enemy system because it's designed to never allow us to kick them out. So what is the remedy in law? You got to always have a remedy, right? So if I find a problem, I got to offer up the solution so the clans know what to do and how to organize,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we face with that opposition, what we supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Study the problem till you find the solution and report the solution to the clans. The only way to get the enemy off our land is to use our system. Our system is designed to empower us.
Mm-hmm.
When we are empowered, the enemy cannot stand in our presence.
Mm-hmm.
And they are aware of this. And that's why they want us to always believe we are powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Keep playing on our emotions because as a spiritual people, we don't learn to read our emotions. We get absorbed up into the spiritual stimulation of emotionalism,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when we go back to our old ways, we can't be religious,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Spiritual people can't be religious. They can't be locked into a fixed doctrine,
Mm-mm.
right? Because they realize that you have a right to be right
Mm-hmm.
according to how you see the world
Fear,
out your
yeah.
eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's your right. I can't take that from you.
Your perspective, yep.
Yeah. And I got a right to see the world how I see it. You got a right to agree or disagree with me. And I got a right to agree or disagree with you. It's not personal. I'm supposed to be my own man. And if you offer something that goes against who I am as a man, I have to turn you down.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
My training teaches me that I can never lose if I support my brother in a righteous endeavor.
I did.
So in the literature of the growth and development nation, it tells us to aid and assist any and all righteous brother in any and all righteous endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is what I'm taught. The righteous endeavor now is to inform the people that if we revert back to our ways, go back to our tribal structures, start tribing back up. We already been tribing up. We just didn't know it because they villainized our tribes and called them gangs. They villainized our leaders under COINTELPRO and murdered them, locked them up, and what you call neutralized them. They told you what they was going to do. In the COINTELPRO document, it tell you they was going to kill Martin, they was going to kill Malcolm, and they didn't give a fuck about Elijah because his ass was old. It's right in the mission statement. And what they do? They killed Martin, they killed Malcolm, and they didn't give a fuck about Elijah until they realized that even though he was old, his influence was great. Then they tried to poison him. And that's why they keep saying Elijah Muhammad not dead. We learn the art of war too, motherfucker. You ain't the only one to understand the art of war. We know how to use the wiles of war from the perspective of the wise general. We Hannibal in this bitch. Fuck your Alexander. Right? We Muhammad Ahmed.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give a damn about your Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
We Toussaint L'Ouverture. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck your Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
So they minimize our great accomplishments and they over sensationalize the accomplishments of lesser men to give them greater status in the psyche of the people. Right? So the people that's behind the scenes gave us Winston Churchill, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower. You understand? These are the people behind the scenes told us they was the leader. But they not taking care of us. Right? And every time we tried to take care of our own, they took the leadership out so that we didn't know what the fuck we was doing. In our culture, the one who leads the way takes the lead. If you know the path, you got to take the lead. It doesn't make sense to have somebody who doesn't know the path take the lead when there's somebody who know where they're going already there. Right? Because now you're going to be stumbling down the path following somebody who's doing guesswork. But the motherfucker that know the way standing back there acting like he don't know nothing. Right?
So, you said something very interesting that I wanted to go a little bit deeper into. Dealing with the spell of sleep, or like Dr. York called the spell of Leviathan, you know, and Kingle, yeah. And dealing with, you were breaking something down. You were saying like there was like something similar to like a CERN, like they have over there in Switzerland, that CERN machine. Could you kind of break that down a little bit more as far as dealing with how
we didn't used to have to go to sleep. The CERN machine collapses the fourth dimension in on the third dimension. So we live in two dimensions simultaneously. What happens when you pull energy in two opposing directions? It loses power, right?
Like a magnet, like
So once it loses power, neither side of it, it's like taking one of the batteries out of a remote control and trying to change the channel. Right? Now, when you put them together, when you learn how to use your subconscious mind consciously, that's when you awake in the dream. Right? So they used a collider similar to CERN. And the goal was to trap the gods. That's what they said they was doing. And the gods they was trying to trap was the divine feminine beings that would take form periodically as fairies, as water sprites, fire sprites, mermaids, what we call mythical creatures. When they collapsed the fourth into the third, everybody now at a certain energy frequency has to take the DNA structure of the human being, which is the highest developed physical form on the planet.
Got you. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, going back to the land, because you know when I first got the information, it was back. My first lecture I ever saw was Ivan Van Sertima in actually Richmond, Virginia. They came before Columbus. He was doing a lecture on that. I went through, you know, Bobby Hemmett, all these individuals in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, I got to Dr. York. You know what I'm saying? But once I got into the information, I started realizing, you know, especially more so now, that there was a timeline, like procession of these beings. You know, Noble Dry Lee. You know, I'll even say Master Farad Muhammad. You know, I keep on saying Yahweh Ben Yah. You know what I'm saying? It didn't even matter. There was always somebody else.
Yeah, it's a consistent passing of the message.
Yeah.
From one
Could you break
person,
that down?
Right. So it's like playing a game. Right. They just call it the game of the gods. Right. So it's part of fifth dimensional galactic chess. All of the leaders on the land have to put all of the grievances out in the public. And all of the upcoming chiefs have to work on a part of the problem until they can solve all of the problems presented by the elders that came before them. So this is why Noble Drew Ali said, I'm going to leave these people in power long enough for y'all to learn how to run a government, because they had to give us a series of different contexts in which to work together in order to change the paradigm and to use our structure to remove the legal fiction on the land.
So it's the procession. Okay, and is there a backstory to it that connects all of them? You know what I'm saying? Is there a story that
Yep.
connects? Yeah,
So
could you
they
please?
all
Uh,
connected by signs and symbols,
mm-hmm,
by what we call left bumps and right bumps.
mm-hmm,
So in the early 1900s, what's my man name? W.B. Du Bois was arguing um, education over being industrious with man, I can't think of my man name right now. It wasn't Frederick Douglass. It was anyway, they was arguing over whether the solution to our condition was education,
mm-hmm,
which was the position of Du Bois.
mm-hmm,
And the other brother position was we needed to be industrious and work generating some kind of economic upswing for the collective in the community,
mm-hmm.
right?